What is up, YouTube? Welcome to our final interview episode of the first day of the Invitational. We have Cajo here.
Hello, hello.
Great to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So, yeah, we want to grab some of the best players, one of the most influential names in the community, and talk about the patch a little bit. So the patch recently released, and we did a video on it, and we think big changes will fuel the meta quite a bit, mix it up quite a lot. So what are your first impressions about the patch? What is positive? What did they miss? Probably, I don't know. What's your first take?
Yeah, so I think what's very interesting about this patch is we very much live in a meta, in my opinion at least. We live in a meta where you can do well with very many things, and that is a good thing. However, generally speaking, in the top lists, you see shooting units and cavalry being the very, very top end. You do sometimes see some melee infantry doing well, but that isn't quite as common as cavalry and shooting. I think this change in the patch, on one hand, it's going to change that a little bit. On the other hand, it's not going to. I think a lot of these, having 4 free points of attachments in all games now, is going to shake things up massively. Because now suddenly, you know, your melee infantry units, they're going to have more stuff. There are objectively far more attachments that you can put on those units to get more value out of them. However, the question is still going to become, how easy is it going to be to get into it? And a great example that I always pull is in Lannister. In Lannister, we have this 6-point trap, where any melee infantry unit that is 6 points, you have to be able to answer the question, why would you take this unit that has a guaranteed threat range of 6 inches over 2 amazing other units that are also 6 points, that have a guaranteed threat range of 14 and 13 inches, which is the crossbows and brigands. And that's guaranteed. No dice roll required, no luck, no nothing, just guaranteed. And when you have that big, like 14 to 6, that's a huge difference. So you need something crazy. You need something really crazy to actually make up that difference. Because you go, cool, I can't reach you very far, but when I do, it's going to be more effective, or I can move quicker. And a lot of factions, I mean, Lannister are a great example, and Bolton's even as well. You now have the ability to get Sentinel for free. Or like one of my favorite ones as well in Lannister is Preston Greenfield. Just now suddenly being able to maneuver off the crowns is huge for Lannister, just for free. And so on one hand, I'm very happy that, because a lot of these changes, like, you know, several factions, they don't really have any good attachments for cavalry. So the cavalry aren't getting as much value out of this as the melee infantry are. And most of the abilities
Except Targs.
Except Targs, of course, Targs are Targs. But yeah, like, but generally speaking, however, they still haven't addressed what I personally consider to be a bit of a problem with the game, where cavalry and shooting is just so much better versus melee infantry. And they've made infantry better, but only the stats. They haven't really changed around how melee infantry can actually do something and get into combat. But again, I think this is where, to some extent, they have, because a lot of factions now have Sentinel, and Sentinel is how that melee infantry does well, or the ability to maneuver off a free zone, which is extra movement. So I think that's probably my main takeaway, I'd say.
Yeah, cool. So like, when you think about the attachments, they changed, not like reworked or anything, or like put down points, where they really did some changes, like the Thornward Sentinel, for example. So these kind of changes, or the unit changes we've saw, like Outriders, Stark Bowman, for example, all those changes. If you think about those, which in my mind at least, good changes, probably sometimes not enough, but are there units where you say these units or attachments need a proper, like bigger change, or a rework even?
Yeah, and I think the answer is yes. Being completely honest with you, the patch only dropped a few days ago. I've been looking at the Lannister changes, and that's it. I haven't had the time to see kind of the total change. But so I'd say in the context of Lannisters, there's still some stuff that needs to be changed around. Crossbows. So funnily enough, one of the biggest changes for Lannisters is the bronze change.
Yeah,
the bronze change
obviously.
Is huge. Yeah, exactly.
Because of the 2 crossbowmen meta, and like
exactly.
and
it's like that double crossbow has been so dominant and so powerful, and I'm glad that it is, because it's a really fun list to play. But that is really going to change now. I still think it's very playable. I think you can do a very fun thing where you replace Bronn with Preston. And that gives you so much maneuverability. You lose the volume of attacks, but everyone is. Assault orders got worse.
Might have thrown.
That
Motivated by coin.
Well. Motivated by coin.
All
gone.
Of it. All gone.
Practically, at least from the same perspective. So the Gatling gun line, they've been slowly getting rid of the Gatling gun line over time. So I think shooting is going to be less effective in the game. However, it's still going to be very good. You're just not going to be able to to be able to spam it as much anymore. Lannister still can very well because you can take Peter and then Tyrion, obviously, he has his ability to just screw with the tactics board in a way that many other factions can't, which is very fun. So I think you still can do it, but it is definitely harder. It's definitely harder. But I'd say in terms of units that still need a change if you want them to be at all playable, I'm sorry, I don't know what they were thinking with the, what are they called? The Lannisport City Watch?
Oh, the City Watch.
Yeah,
the adaptive style. And,
they changed, but it's not enough. It's not
well,
enough.
they just changed the domineering pride aspect. But,
exactly. And like the domineering pride is fine. It's not terrible, but it's just, again, it's the problem. They're a 6-point unit, and you go, do they give you anything extra that makes you feel like you're taking something of value compared to crossbows or brigands? And the answer is still, even if you give them a crazy attachment, no. Because in Lannisters, you have halberdiers who are amazing, and they're 5 points.
Yeah.
And so you have to be a point better than halberdiers, which is tough because halberdiers are good.
Yeah.
So
even though that's Lannister specific, right? Because we have domineering pride examples in the game. Greyjoy, for example, with the Iron Victory crew, who gains so much from the change of domineering pride. So that's probably because you're spoiled in a way with these good 6-point units.
100%.
While others, like Starks, for example, they do not have great 6-point units.
And that's the thing.
But still.
Exactly.
I totally see that. When we did the video, we came up with conscripts.
Yeah.
Because they are in general not bad, but they can just be spammed to death, right? From the tactics board, and you can't do anything really about it.
Yeah.
Harma's Vanguard. And we came up with, what was the third one? Bruisers.
Yeah.
Bruisers. So these are 3 examples of units we came up with where we see, okay, these guys just need something to come back into the game.
I'd say another thing as well, harking on about that, is I actually think, again, in the Lannister context, Warrior Sons.
Warrior Sons.
They need something because right now, yes, the ability to take like a Champion of the Faith for free is fine.
Yeah.
The problem is, again, they are a 7-point melee infantry unit, which are not Honor Guard. And you can make the argument that Honor Guard are too good. In my opinion, and this is maybe controversial, I don't think Honor Guard are too good. I think Honor Guard is exactly what 7-point melee infantry unit needs to be. Because if you have a guaranteed threat range of 6 inches, that's nothing. It's so easy to play around 6 inches. And if someone goes into your flank, you go, okay, I guess I just don't charge you. And that's now 7 points doing nothing. And so the difference is Honor Guard, they are really slow, really difficult to get in combat, yada, yada, yada. But when you do get in,
then they're strong.
They are insane.
Same Lewis. So for mine, as a Night's Watch player, Swarm Brothers are not as good as veterans probably.
Exactly.
But they can hit hard, but you can play around it. You
Precisely.
can just but probably in future terms, now that I can get the Watch Captain in there for free.
That's fun.
They will be better.
That's fun.
And they will be defensively, they will be even stronger offensively. So, we changed quite a bit. So, like, there's one more thing. Neutrals, or neutral commanders, are taken away now. So, and we discussed before with other interviewers, Brother Without Banners are, like, reduced in terms of commanders they can take. So that's Boltons. So they are probably punished the most from this.
Probably,
So how do you feel about this? And we also discussed there should be changes in the future to the commanders. So do we miss neutral commanders?
So I think it's interesting. From a fluff perspective and building fun, fluffy lists, we do. Because, especially in Lannisters and Starks, you gotta have a lot of fun with Boltons. You can really make a really fluffy list.
Especially Roose back then with Lannisters, or still today.
And that is exactly the thing. I think Roose, because we can talk about the casual, more for fun aspect, which is one thing, but from the competitive perspective, there's one thing in unusual commanders which we appreciate having, and that is Roose. I think way back in the day, before they changed the rules of targeting and made it worse, Roose was the anti-pick. And even now he still is, where if there's something in the game which is so terrible, so powerful, and so fundamentally game-changing, if it's something that targets something, any faction can go, cool, let me take this as an anti. I still remember, a lot of people, they were going, cool, this is the Corrin days back in the day, and they go, cool, Roose Commander. This is my anti-Night's Watch list. Because, you position in a way, you dish out a bunch of tokens, and you go, cool, I know he wants to Corrin this guy. Put a weakened token over there when I know they can't get rid of it. I now have a guaranteed counterplay. That's now worse, but it still works against cards, it still works against certain things. And obviously it lays by around, but sometimes around is all you need. And so I think not having Roost, we haven't seen Roost be necessary in any meta, for any crazy meta thing that's come out since Corrin. But if something like all it needs is 1 point for something like Corrin to come back into effect and really be that kind of domineering thing. And Roost was the anti-pick. So I think losing that makes some factions quite sad because it reduces your tools.
Yeah.
And that was a very powerful toolbox, a very specific tool. But if it worked for you, then that'd be very good.
Yeah. So there's one last aspect of before we go to the Invitational. So with the patch, when we try to build lists throughout factions, you always, or a lot of times, you come to the point where you say, I want to build this, but this particular list isn't working anymore, or I can't max out these 4 attachments, or I need whatever. So we said in the video, they might look into something, right now we have certain restrictions, a lot of restrictions with attachments, right? We have some exceptions, but should we go, or should Simon think about loosen up these restrictions a little bit? So you can say, I will put this 1 point attachment, which brings me whatever keyword, threaten, for example, onto, or also into this unit, next to my attachment. Or would you say this is like stacking up abilities, this will lead to something we don't want to?
It's a great question. It's a great question, and I think the answer is both. I think on one hand, the list building for a long time has been quite stale. I think that's feedback we've gotten from a lot of people. A lot of people are feeling you're kind of shoehorned into playing one thing.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, the balance is good. Like, we live in a time, Brothers is maybe an exception, but we live in a time where every single faction, except for Bolts and Neutrals, because they don't really count, are able to build a list pair which can win a tournament. Are they all as good as each other? No. But we don't have this thing where, except for Brothers Without Banners, where there's one faction which is just so dominating, where you go, if you're not running that faction, you are hamstringing yourself. Every faction can compete. Some compete better than others, all those kinds of things. And that is a very, very good thing. However, some people say that's stale, which is completely fair enough. By loosening up attachment restrictions, you undo the staleness, and you open the floodgates. Because if you can put 2 attachments, maybe they do some restrictions, I don't know, but if you completely open it up, that is absolutely insane. Because
absolutely, that would be too big.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, just a small example, can you imagine what would happen if you could have Gregor Commander in Honor Guard, which already is something which can be good, but can be played around yada yada, and then just put a Preston in there as well, maneuver of crowns with Gregor. Maneuver crowns, that's a problem.
And we in the video we made examples like imagine Starks would get a generic attachment, which is 1 point, and gives them go down fighting, for example. Or hardened. Well, it already is there. But for this particular attachment, they loosen up the restrictions and say you can put in go down fighting into this or that, and that might be that was actually a thing I'm really digging. This particular one is only for Starks. This particular one is only for Night's Watch, for Lannisters, and they have their generic attachment, which brings that one particular thing without restrictions across your. And that shouldn't be too strong. That should be something you can add to units. So to fill up these last 1 or 2 points, you cannot max out. That was a thinking I had.
I think that's a very good thought. I think that's a very good option. One thing that I would like to see is more faction rules.
Yeah.
Like, we have
absolutely
1, 2.
Two now.
Yeah, the 2 latest factions have faction rules.
And some faction specific stuff like also like
mag card, technically.
Mag or like faction specific stuff like Boltons can take the first Bastard Boy for free. Brotherhood can take the first attachment for free. That's
exactly
stuff you get specifically.
Yeah, and I think something like you have Pillage and Greyjoys, which is such a fluffy cornerstone to how they play. You have the new Bolton tokens, which seem very fun.
Yeah,
that seems very, very fun.
Yeah. Eager to try it out.
Yeah, I think just some more stuff like that, and you can really double down. Like, maybe you could do some kind of thing where, Targaryens, they can get a they can stack up tokens and they can spend 3 tokens through a 1-inch shift. Like it's
something like that.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
super powerful,
yeah.
but like it's not crazy.
It's not crazy good. Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of factions could really benefit from that because when you buff units, people take the good units. And there will always be that kind of thing. But when you put in a kind of faction rule in that kind of way, you just open the floodgates because you give players the ability to experiment with different things while still getting.
And they
those
will
benefits.
try it out then. They will.
Absolutely. I mean, just imagine if Lannister's some kind of thing where they could really stack panic up a little bit more. You'd see more red cloaks. You'd see more maybe even gold cloaks.
Yeah.
And I think that'd just be interesting. Again, for me as someone who plays the game competitively, my main thing that I look for in a game is cross-faction balance. So every faction, I don't want to be playing a game where you buy into one faction, you
win.
Yeah, exactly. And then you spend £100 into this faction, and then the rules change, and now with that faction, you can't win a tournament.
Yeah, that shouldn't be the case. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm completely fine if most of the unit choices in a faction aren't good, but you have enough good stuff to win tournaments. But I still see that I'm in the minority there. A lot of people they want more balance within the factions, and obviously that would be good. It's not my biggest priority, but it is a priority, and I think stuff like that would be a fun way to do that.
Yeah. All right, that's on the patch. So to close things,
yes,
the Invitational, obviously the crown event of Season 5.
Yes.
So many great names out there in that big hall. So many great games. So many people like playing on stream. Awesome. What was your most favorite moment?
Most favorite
of these maybe first 2 days or today?
Most favorite moment. I think you can't summarize it in one moment.
Yeah, okay.
There's not just one moment.
Then give me 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'd say that just the general feel is just the fact of you're coming here, and you got the top players in the world, and you got the top content creators in the world, and you have all these different people, and you have this, at least for me, just this two-way effect where you have so many people that you go, oh, I know you, I've seen you play. But then also having that happen to you as well. You put so many faces to names, and it's the kind of thing where we've never had a structured world championships in Song of Ice and Fire. In another game I used to play, Imperial Assault, then they had that really structured system with different kinds of tiers, and they had official yearly world championships, and that was really cool. And Song never really had that, and I think Stats and this Invitational is the perfect way to do that, and I really hope that can be continued in some way going forward.
Yeah.
But it's just having that. It's really this unification. This community and this game wouldn't exist if not for Stats being created all these years ago. That's just clear and obvious.
Absolutely.
And without TTS, it wouldn't have survived through the years of COVID and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So you have these two things, and Stats is an online thing, TTS is an online thing, and then having something like this that brings all of that.
Yeah, you need to take the tools and bring everyone together.
Exactly, and you bring everyone back to the actual table with something like this. And I think skipping Invitational in 2024 was the perfect decision for Colin because it gave him enough time to really create the full effect, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think it's been amazing.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Not over-promising anything, but this is exactly what we are talking about right now because like with this taking over Stats under, let's say, under our support, so to say, and working really closely with everyone now, we are actually exactly trying to do this, to have like a regular thing going, to get all the big names, the best players in there, and exactly like foster these moments of like, we played online, we know each other for years, now we meet the first time.
Exactly.
So this is something I also experienced. Like I'm doing Nits and Crits now for 2 years, and gathered the team together, and now we grew up to like 12 people. And this moment when you step into that room, and people are saying, this is Chris, and this is Cajo, and this is like we all know each other from like writing to each other or like chatting, or we see each other's messages or announcements, whatever.
Exactly.
Right? And then you see each other and you're in the same room connecting, and that's, you cannot describe it, right?
You really can't. It's the kind of
thing
where
it's there to remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Because it's just anyone watching this who hasn't been to there's a difference between going to an international tournament and an international tournament.
Absolutely.
You can travel to a tournament international and you go, cool, I'm one of 3 players from the UK, but it's the French nationals and there's 80 French people there. But that's great in its own way, and you get to meet all these different players. But this is you have I mean, I can't even remember how many different nations are represented, but it's a massive amount.
14?
Yeah,
I think 14.
Yeah, something like that. Like it's a huge amount.
Yeah.
And so you really have, this is not a tournament where, oh, I'm going to visit Italy, I'm going to visit Sweden or anything like that. This is, everyone is coming to the same place.
Yeah.
And this is, you have the cream of the crop.
Yeah,
Both
and the most active ones, right? The
Exactly.
most, all the people that really make a difference in this game.
Exactly.
So,
and you just see those names that you've seen so many times
Yeah,
online.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you've seen them on the
Yeah,
Stats homepage,
yeah.
you've just spoken to them, you've played games with them, you've beaten them, they've beaten you, all these kinds of things.
Yeah, amazing.
It's so
all right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great info. Thanks for sharing. And I think we'll go in there, grab a beer.
Sounds good.
That sounds good.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Until we meet again, roll those crits, guys.